We're asked to graph the function -2 cosine of x. So before we do this, it could be sine that you encounter in the future. It could be cosine. So let's just graph the basic sine function, the basic cosine function. Sine function and cosine functions both have what we call a sinusoidal wave. It goes up and then down, then comes back. Whoops, like this. Okay, that's sine. Cosine is a little bit different. It starts at the peak of the amplitude, like that. Okay, so they're the same thing. Cosine is just shifted pi over 2 units. Okay, so it's pi over 2 units to the right from the origin. So sine and cosine, they can make the same graph. Cosine just starts at the top of the origin on the y-axis. Now if you multiply that by a negative sign, that means you just start at the bottom of your sinusoidal wave, like that. That's negative cosine of x. And then if you multiply by -2, that means you don't start at negative. I should have labeled, this is all 1. The base amplitude is 1 because there's a number 1 written right in front of those functions, right? So a 2 just means you have an amplitude of 2. Instead of starting at -1 like I did in this graph, you start at -2, and then you start your wave. And to finish graphing, you'll also want to remember that the period of sine and cosine, the base period, is 2 pi. Okay, so this has a period of 2 pi, this has a period of 2 pi. That means if I start at 0, -2, after 2 pi units on the x-axis, I have to be back to -2 on the y-axis. And look how I drew my graph to go all the way up to 2 and then back down to -2. And then we can do it again, going this way. And there's our graph. We've graphed y equals -2 cosine of x. Okay. Now things that can adjust that. You could do y equals here. Let's do 2 sine of, let's do x over 2. The only difference here is that it's sine and that there's a divide 2 happening to x. So sine usually starts here at the origin, right? The only thing that would change it from starting at the origin is if you did +1 over here or if you did +1 outside. That's a vertical shift on the outside. This would be a horizontal shift on the inside, but we're not dealing with that with this question. This one starts at the origin, has a peak of 2, and it has a lowest point of -2 because the amplitude is 2. And now this divide by 2, you could rewrite that as 1/2 x. That's your b, we call it. To find the period of sine and cosine, you just take the base period and divide it by b. So I'm dividing it by my 1/2. So 2 pi divided by 1/2, that's 4 pi. So that means this graph that I'm about to do needs to repeat itself every 4 pi units. So I need to be, here's 4 pi. That means I need to be back to this dot right here by the time I get to 4 pi. Because sine starts at the center of that sinusoidal wave. It goes up to 2, down to -2, and then it comes back to 4 pi. You could do the reverse on the other side.